Hi, Brown. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. Okay. I just want to quickly thank all the people who helped me with this speech, who saw Google Doc in various forms of disarray for the past 2 years. You all are the reason. You know who you are. You're the reason this speech doesn't suck. If it does suck, forget what I said. It was all my fault. Quickly, thank you to my family. Didi, Dad, I love you. And Mom, your irrational belief in me is the reason I have the confidence to do half of the even marginally impressive things I've ever done. Class of 2020, thank you. Thank you for making this weekend everything that it is. I'm technically a part of the class of 2019.5. Yeah, that snuck in the back door. 2 years ago, that distinction might have mattered. Now, it's more of a vague memory. But at the time, my plan was to spend the spring on campus and stay engaged with the communities and student organizations that I'd loved. So if you're thinking to yourself, you know what? I did see him in the GCB a lot in the spring. It was way more than sustainable for someone taking 4 courses. Now you know why. I was taking 0 courses. I had an untraditional journey through Brown. Thanks to a global pandemic, an untraditional journey is something we all share. Many of us were drawn here by the open curriculum. So it's no surprise we all took drastically different and now slightly extended paths here today. That curriculum made the Brown experience a student-centered one. It insisted that we were the architects of our own education. A line I'm sure the admissions office is sick of seeing in everyone's Brown applications. But despite being super corny, there is truth there. And the responsibility and privilege to design our own journey has had amazing results. Our class is full of people with stories of intellectual curiosity and serendipity, of students shopping a class for fun only to realize that building boats or digital music or the politics of a climate conference was their true passion. The collaboration, the creativity, the novel experiences are inspiring, no doubt. But I think there's something beyond our famous open curriculum that made Brown and our time here so meaningful. To explain, I have to retrace my time at Brown. For me, all the freedom made me feel anchorless as a first year. I was uninspired both inside and outside the classroom. I fell into insecurity and imposter syndrome. I tried to imitate the people whose combination of affability, self-assuredness, and generational privilege made it seem like they were gliding through our early days at Brown. If our first year was a Keeney dorm party, they were crowd surfing, and I was stuck in the corner trying not to get beer spilled on me. That feeling was so intense that one chilly March morning, 15 minutes into my Principles of Economics lecture, I did what many of us have done. I stopped paying attention to price ceilings, I closed my notebook, and I took out my laptop. But instead of scrolling through Twitter or finding new ridiculous ways to spend my Squad 2020 money, think back to what you bought. Do you still own it? No. So instead of doing any of that, I opened the Common App and I started a transfer application. Later, I submitted it. Then I was accepted. Then I decided I was going to leave Brown and start somewhere new in the fall. Throughout the whole process, I was waiting for some sudden, beautiful realization that Brown was my home. Something to tell me I was making a huge mistake. It didn't come. Sitting in my Wayland dorm, while everyone was enjoying the first days of spring on the main green, I began looking at dorms, classes, and clubs at my new school. But as you can tell, I didn't leave, because there was one thing that changed my mind. I had been accepted to go on Bolt, a backpacking trip for sophomores that happens at Brown before each fall semester. Throughout my first year, the thought of that trip had been one of the few things that felt profoundly right to me. And here I was, about to throw it away. That's why I didn't leave. Believe me, standing here in front of all of you, saying that out loud, I realize how ridiculous it sounds. But literally the only reason I'm here and not sitting in the crowd at the commencement of that other school was the thought of 5 days in the woods with 9 strangers. I told my dad it was because I thought opportunities for an international relations concentrator were better at Brown. So he is also learning this today, that despite the extensive list of pros and cons, against all other signs, I'd pegged my happiness in college to hope that these people I would meet in 3 months would change my life. And they did. Bolt was the first community at Brown where I felt like I could be me. When I became a Bolt leader the next year, I realized why. Bolt is a community built on being intentional, on making space for people to be themselves, on accepting whatever that looks like. I realized that what was missing my first year wasn't some lack of charisma or ability that made me inherently ill-suited to the freedom offered by Brown. What I was missing, what I was starved of, was a community where I felt supported, valued, and loved. My Bolt family gave me the space to share myself with others. They showed me what I was looking for in the other communities I would find and build at Brown. During lockdown in the spring of 2020, when all of us had little else to do but sit around and reminisce, I realized I wasn't the only one with that type of story. I heard friends admit that they too, in big ways and in small ways, had felt adrift at Brown, that they had felt profoundly lonely and alone until they found their people. Maybe some of you felt the same. Maybe that looked like leaving a sports team and then stumbling upon a new group of friends that felt custom-made for you, that was the key to making you feel at home. Brown is a place where we are in charge of our own journey from day one. This university is renowned for how fiercely independent we, its students, are. Sure, there are some things we all share. We all eventually realize Coliseum isn't actually fun. Just like we all realize that waffle fries are the best fries at Joe's. But those commonalities aside, for the most part, it's our own customized experience. But that doesn't mean we have to do it all alone. Our independence would be meaningless if we didn't have both the strength and love we draw from the communities we build for ourselves here. Only with the love and support of our people could we do any of the amazing things that so many of you did at Brown. No novel endeavor, no challenge to the system is quite as scary when there are people beside us cheering us on, when we have our community by our side. These past 2 years have put that to the test. Since we left College Hill, we've faced challenges and coped with loss in ways we could never have imagined. And we were forced to lean on our people in ways many of us never have, and often with those people more isolated from us than ever before. We've also been forced to reflect on how far our community, the scope of our people, really extends, about what we're personally willing to risk for people we don't know, or who don't look like us, or who don't have an Ivy League education, or who live thousands of miles away. When our spring semester was cut short and the university closed, many of you proved just the lengths you were willing to go to for others. You organized and mobilized for your people, sometimes from 6 feet away. You shared food, shared hand sanitizer, shared Zoom calls, shared love with one another. With close friends, sure, but also with complete strangers, with whom Brown was all you had in common. Even beyond that, you thought of those with whom we share Providence as a home. The marginally housed, the food insecure, the under or uninsured. So many of you proved that our people extends far beyond those with an email ending in brown.edu. As we're able to gather again, as we're able to be together with our people like we are today, we can't forget that we're capable of that level of community. We can't just sit around for the next pandemic or the next fashionable cause or the next time our own personal humanity is threatened before we think beyond our own little worlds. Our commitment to racial justice, climate justice, housing justice, abortion rights, we need to nurture these things the way we nurture our bonds with our friends, every day, in big ways and in small ways. Class of 2020, none of the magic happens without the people. That is the most important thing I've learned at Brown. We've all seen firsthand that we're still in charge of our journey after we leave College Hill. If you're like me, it's been hard at times. It's felt lonely. But don't think you're on this journey alone either. Insist on finding your people wherever you are. Insist on showing up for those who count you among their people. Show up for those you might not even know. Push yourself to expand the boundaries of who counts as your people and what you define as your community. Class of 2020, congratulations. I wish you many more joyful years with all your people, whoever they may be. Thank you.